name is Karim. I'm the horticulture specialist for Denver County. Horticulture is kind of a misnomer because I feel like I love plants and insects equally. To give you a bit of background on me, so I love all sorts of insects. I did my master's studying thrips, but I was studying thrips in weirdly an urban entomology lab. So my boss was looking at termites and ants. My colleagues were looking at mosquitoes and ticks. And I learned a lot of things from them just by diffusion. So I'm going to share some of the fun facts and some of the important management stuff too that I picked up in that lab. So here's an overview of what we're going to cover today. Medical pests, stored product pests, nuisance invaders, structural pests, and miscellaneous house pests. One thing I want to talk about before we get into this, if you are a master gardener, you'll get a lot of, general insect questions, and it's really our responsibility to cover the horticultural pests. You may get some of these non-horticultural pests. And if you get one of these questions, I don't think it's your responsibility. Like, you don't have to answer those questions. If I hopefully some of the information I'll give you today will make you more confident if you're going to answer them. But if you don't feel confident, just feel free to send them over to your local horticulture agent. All right, and then also I want to talk about peri-domesticism. So a lot of the pests that we're going to encounter are what we call peri-domestic. They like to hang out in human modified habitat, kind of like peri-domestic rodents, rats, squirrels, and rabbits. They all are hanging around humans because humans alter environments in ways that make them, more habitable for these organisms. And the same principle applies to insects. We change our environment in a way that makes it better for insects. The only reason we have so many cockroaches is because we, kill off all of their competitors, and then we have tons of food lying around for them to scavenge on. So a lot of the management that we'll use for any of these pests is going to be to, not make the habitat as conducive to those pests. And I'm sure you are all familiar with the pyramid of IPM. This one is meant for like beekeeping, but this pyramid of IPM is applicable to any kind of pest problem, even plant diseases. The methods towards the bottom of the pyramid are often going to be the best for us to implement because they involve the least risk in labor, and they are much more preventative. They're much more, you know, preventative versus interventive. Think of it, things towards the bottom of the pyramid are like preventing a fire from happening in the first place, whereas things towards the top are like trying to stop a fire which has already consumed all of, boulder or something. So try to implement the methods towards the bottom of the pyramid whenever you can, but the methods towards the top of the pyramid, they do have a time and a place. All right, so first off, we're going to start with medical pests because I think they're the funnest. Just a warning, some of this stuff is going to be a bit gross. I will warn you when I'm going to talk about the really gross stuff. So we're going to talk about bed bugs, mosquitoes, ticks, and kissing bugs. First off, bed bugs. So identifying bed bugs, like identifying anything is the first step towards a proper management protocol. Bed bugs, they look very similar to an insect called a bat bug. They're in the same genus. Bed bugs are human parasites, so they're sucking blood from humans exclusively. Bat bugs will feed on bats and humans occasionally if there is a very heavy infestation or if the bats have moved on and humans are still inhabiting that structure. A good way to tell them apart is the length of the hairs. Bed bugs, the length of the hairs are never longer than the width of the eyes, whereas in a bat bug, the hairs are longer than the width of the eyes. There's another more nuanced cue. This part of the thorax right here, in a bed bug, it's deeply concave, and in a bat bug, it's less concave, but it's much easier to just go off of the eyes versus the hairs rather than these other really nuanced things. So bed bugs, they are, as you all know, they bite humans, they suck our blood. The bites are often very clustered together, but I'm not going to really focus on like identifying insects from their bites. That's not something that I am even qualified to do. If someone comes to you or sends you a question via Ask Extension about like, they just show you their bites, just tell them, we're not medical professionals. We are not qualified to diagnose the insect by the bite. Please take it to a medical professional like a dermatologist to have that ID'd. We just don't have the expertise to do that. Bed bugs, so they make those clustered bites, and they are in the same order as true bugs. So like aphids, assassin bugs, stink bugs, mealy scale. They have piercing, sucking mouth parts. So you can actually see it here in the bottom right corner. It's a little needle. They stick it into you. They suck out your blood. It's no fun. Bed bugs, like other true bugs, they undergo an incomplete metamorphosis. So the babies are just smaller versions of the adults. Um, and another cool thing about them is that the blood meals that they take are actually visible inside them. This like blackened mass in each of the blood bugs is like the digested blood, which is going to be important for detecting them. Like in this picture, when you're looking for bed bugs, you're often going to want to look for what we call fecal spots. That black digested blood, it forms like a pellet that they poop out, and then you'll often will find the fecal pellets before you'll find the bed bugs. And they're often going to be found like in mattress seams, or if you have a really heavy infestation on the baseboards, areas outside of the bed where the bed bugs are typically inhabiting. Bed bugs, like a lot of insects, are thigmotactic. That just means that they like to inhabit little cramped spaces. I like to think of it as like bed bugs, they love being hugged on all sides. They like to be in contact with like the wall and the mattress. And yeah, they just want to be, it's like having a weighted blanket on you. And because of that, you'll often find them in really cramped spaces like mattress seams, also baseboards, or even I've seen like in really dilapidated apartments, like in the bathrooms where the grout is starting to decay, like the holes in the grout beneath the tile. There can even be bed bugs in there. And this is really important because if you're trying to look for bed bugs, you have to look everywhere because you can, if you miss just a few of them hiding in those, lesser known places, that can be a source of the population that'll reinfest the apartment or the home. So now for the fun facts. So I'm gonna give you a trigger warning now. This is gonna get kind of gross. Bed bug sex is crazy. It's called traumatic insemination. So what you're seeing here in the bottom right corner, that is the bed bug's the male genitalia. It's called an adiagus, and it is literally like a knife. When bed bugs have sex, the male is literally like cutting into the female to inject his genetic material into her bloodstream, essentially. And this is really dangerous for the female because the wound that he inflicts can actually get infected and she can die of that infection, which you may think, like, how did they survive this long? But the females have actually evolved a workaround called the Burlese organ. So the female, so on the top and top of this image, A is the bedbug, the male's knife essentially. And then C, this is the Burlese organ. You can see where it is located in image B. And so the females will actually try to guide the male's appendage to that Burlese organ to mate because that organ has a special membrane that can heal over faster when he stabs her. So that can prevent her from getting an infection and dying. But trust me, it gets worse or better from my perspective. So I read this paper a couple of years ago called "Homosexual Interactions in Bed Bugs: Alarm Pheromones as Male Recognition Signals." So bed bugs secrete alarm pheromone, kind of like honeybees. They whenever they're feeling threatened, they release a hormone that tells their friends, "Hey, there's some danger about. Get away." Um, and so this researcher, what he did was he painted over the glands. Actually, let me back up a bit. Actually, so bed bugs are like mosquitoes. In bed bugs, both sexes blood feed. In mosquitoes, only the female blood feeds. And the problem with that is that the males are indiscriminate. They will mate with anyone or try to mate with anyone who looks like they just took a blood meal because they think, oh my gosh, it could be a girl. Now's my chance. So they'll often end up mounting other males that recently blood fed. And that's a lose-lose for both of the bugs in the situation because one guy is getting stabbed and the other guy, is wasting his time stabbing a guy when he could be stabbing a girl. So they release alarm pheromone to basically say like, hey, I'm a guy, get off. And what this researcher did was he took some male bed bugs and he painted over their alarm pheromone glands so they couldn't release that hormone. And the guys with their glands painted over got mounted for longer because they couldn't communicate, I'm a guy, get off. Moving on. So managing bed bugs. The first step towards managing is monitoring. So looking for where the bed bugs are, whether it's in those crevices, mattress seams, grout, the holes in the grout. One of the most effective methods, though, is this thing called bed isolation. So bed bugs are attracted to you because of your body heat and your CO2, and they're often going to want to get you when you're sleeping in your bed. So to help monitor if you have a bed bug infestation, if you have one of those beds, it only works for beds that have the 4 legs. You're going to want to move your bed away from any walls or furniture. Make sure no bedding is touching the ground, and then place each of the legs of the bed in like either a glue board, a sticky trap, or in like a container that has diatomaceous earth in there. And then you're going to want to sleep in your bed. And so you are the lure. All the beds, the bug beds will, if they're present, they're going to want to climb towards you. They're going to get stuck in the glue board or in a diatomaceous earth trying to climb those legs. And then they're going to die and go to hell where they belong. Um, Also, heat treatments. So if you have a bedbug infestation, the best way to manage it is with a professional pest control company. And they're going to bring in a bunch of heaters and basically raise the temperature of the whole living space to one that is lethal to bed bugs. This method does require you to vacate the apartment for a day or two. And then there's also insecticides. They'll probably do this in conjunction with a heat treatment, where they'll either use pyrethroids or which are like, insecticides, they don't really stick around for too long, so there's less of a threat to you being exposed to them. And they're going to apply them to the baseboards and these other areas where bed bugs are known to inhabit. And then also diatomaceous earth, which is what you're seeing being used in this bed isolation method. So diatomaceous earth, if you're not familiar, it is basically like the fossilized remains of microscopic organisms called diatoms, and it doesn't kill the bugs immediately, as they walk across it, these like little crystals pierce their body, and then it causes the bed bugs to die of desiccation from drying out. Also, a little another fun fact: people used to use bean leaves to manage bed bugs because bean leaves, the leaf hairs, the trichomes, would actually impale the bed bugs' feet and get them stuck as they're trying to go towards people and suck their blood. That was a technique that was used in Eastern Europe in like not prehistoric, but medieval times. All right, the next medical pest are mosquitoes. So mosquitoes, they have aquatic larvae. They prefer ephemeral or hypoxic pools. By ephemeral, I mean pools of water that are not sticking around for too long. For example, the trash that we leave all over the city. That's perfect for mosquitoes because it forms a pool of water that they can live in, and it's free from predation by other beneficial insects. Frogs, fish, and dragonfly naiads. They cannot inhabit those ephemeral pools. And then also hypoxic pools, areas that have been deprived of their oxygen, are going to be prime habitat for mosquitoes because that also precludes a lot of the beneficials that want to eat the mosquito larva. Mosquitoes also prefer certain people. If you are wearing darker colored clothing, they're going to be more likely to bite you. If you are diabetic, they're going to be more likely to bite you. If you have a high metabolism, like if you recently ate or exercised, especially if you have like a really sugary meal, or if you're pregnant, you're going to be releasing more CO2, more body heat that's going to attract more mosquitoes. And then also blood type. If you have O type blood, they're going to prefer to bite you because mosquitoes prefer blood that has none of those glycoproteins. A and B or AB type blood has more proteins in the blood, and think of it as like that blood is more spicy. The mosquitoes don't like that blood. They prefer blood with no proteins on it. Mosquito, I mentioned they like hypoxic pools. So eutrophication is a really common problem in urban areas where we have, fertilizers from our lawn running off into local waterways. That fuels the growth of algae, which then blanket the surface of the water. It blocks all light to the aquatic plants. So all of the other, aquatic organisms, plants, and then the beneficial organisms like fish, frogs, other aquatic insects, they all die off. And all that remains, all that can survive in these areas that are deprived of oxygen are mosquito larvae, unfortunately. Also, mowing your lawn too frequently can contribute to mosquito populations as well, because just like that excess nitrogen and phosphorus, those fertilizers running off into the water fuel the growth of those algae. Um, the grass clippings, when they flow into the stream of water, that also fuels the growth of bacteria. And a lot of the mosquito larvae, they are filter feeding bacteria from the water. So too much plant material in the water can also fuel algae blooms and bacteria for the mosquitoes to eat. Excuse me. All right, now I want to talk about my favorite mosquito, the best mosquito, which is the elephant mosquito. So on the left is Aedes aegypti, a blood-feeding mosquito. On the right is the elephant mosquito, Toxorhynchides. Toxorhynchides mosquitoes do not blood feed. The adults are purely nectar feeders, and they're very beautiful, by the way. Like they have these like little yellow and bluish scales. They're just pretty. But it gets better. Elephant mosquitoes, regular mosquitoes, the blood-feeding ones, as the larva, they're feeding off bacteria in the water. Elephant mosquitoes, as the larva, they eat other mosquitoes. They are voracious predators. So they've actually been intentionally introduced into several countries to help control mosquitoes. But there is a barrier to that because these guys, it's very hard to mass rear them because they are cannibals. If you mass rear them all together, they'll eat each other. So when they are rearing them, you have to put them in like little egg cartons and put one mosquito larva per little slot. So it's not a really efficient system. But yeah, they're really cool. They don't occur here in Colorado, unfortunately. They're more of a tropical thing. So I've seen them in Hawaii, the Philippines, other areas like that. Oops. And I want to show you all a quick video of how these mosquitoes lay their eggs. So just some background, Toxorhynchides can detect when there are other mosquitoes in a pool of water. And it's going to show you in 1 second. So this is the Toxorhynchides female, and she's kind of like butt whipping her eggs into the pool so that her babies will have plenty of food. You can see the little actual other mosquito larvae feeding. And so look right there. Did everyone see how she just flicked her egg into the pool? It gets better though. As she is laying her eggs, the other mosquitoes, the mothers of the mosquitoes that are blood feeding, they kind of like fly into her face and try to, mob her. It's kind of like a blackbird mobbing a hawk because they know that she's going to basically, her eggs are going to eat their babies. So they're trying to keep their babies safe by disrupting this egg laying behavior, which I think is very funny. Yep. All right. And then back to, whoops, let's see, from current slide. So that's elephant mosquitoes in a nutshell. Um, Another thing that we have here in Colorado that helps manage mosquitoes are mosquito fish, Gambusia finis. So these things will just eat mosquitoes and other small aquatic invertebrates. I see them over all over Cherry Creek, Chatfield, Littleton. They're pretty common. All right, managing mosquitoes. So the best way to manage them is to get rid of the larval habitat. So any of those ephemeral or hypoxic pools. So we should try not to litter, so we don't provide those little cups that are going to fill with water. Even if these cups full of water like dry out, if a mosquito lays its eggs in there, the eggs are resistant to desiccation. So they can, if the water refills, the mosquito larva can, the mosquito eggs can rehydrate and hatch. Also, just encouraging healthy aquatic systems. If the water isn't being eutrophied, if it is not being deprived of oxygen, then it's going to reduce the mosquito population. There are some chemical management strategies for mosquitoes, but we don't want to apply conventional insecticides to aquatic systems. Aquatic systems are very vulnerable to insecticides. Imagine like when the chemical gets in the water, it's all around them. They can't avoid it. So if we are going to use insecticides to manage mosquitoes in water, the best thing to use are surface film oils. So this is like a oil that covers the surface of the water. It doesn't kill mosquitoes outright, but it prevents them from moving from the pupal stage to the adult stage because they have to, swim around, become a pupa, and then break free from the surface of the water. And these films block that, so they basically get stuck in the water and drown and die. And then there are these new types of insecticides called juvenile hormone analogs. I won't go too in depth, but I'll just say that these things are great because they attack very insect-specific processes. They don't attack the nervous system. They don't attack the circulatory system. They attack a hormone that only insects make, that humans and fish do not. Also, tire dumps are notorious for being mosquito habitat. Have you ever tried to get water out of a tire? It's nearly impossible. And when I was living in Hawaii, they're very paranoid about invasive species as they should be. And there was about, I think, like a $3 million shipment of Mercedes coming to Hawaii. At the port, they did an inspection. They found a non-native species of mosquito in the tire water, and that whole shipment had to go back to the mainland because that's how mosquitoes usually get around is through tire water. All right, so more mosquito management. Repellents are really effective. So DEET is the active ingredient that you'll find in most bug sprays like off. That is really good at keeping the mosquitoes away. Like citronella and geraniol, these are both, chemicals that come from geraniums. They don't actually repel the mosquitoes. It just messes with their sensory organs, so they can't actually find you to bite you. And then there are some mosquito control devices. I want to wholeheartedly discourage the use of bug zappers because they are not specific to mosquitoes at all. They will attract and kill all manner of insects, especially some of our native and beneficial insects like this moth that I have pictured here. So mosquito zappers just kill everything plus mosquitoes. Um, you can buy or even make yourself do a DIY like a mosquito lure, just by making something that secretes CO2 and octanol. The ones that secrete octanol you have to buy online, but people make their own like mosquito DIY traps out of like 2 bottles with some baking soda. It attracts the mosquitoes in, they fly in, they get stuck in the water and drown and die. So you can look up online just DIY mosquito lures, but just don't use bug zappers, please. All right. Next up are ticks, and I'm kind of flying through because there's lots of different pests to cover. Urban entomology is like you could take a whole career in it. So ticks, we have many species here in Colorado. The most injurious, the one that transmits disease here, is the Rocky Mountain wood tick. Tick-borne diseases are pretty rare here in Colorado, but they do occur. Again, if someone comes to you showing you a tick bite, remember, you're not a medical professional. They have to go see a doctor about that, not a master gardener. And here are some of the diseases that ticks transmit just here in Colorado. So Colorado tick fever, Rocky Mountain spotted fever, tick-borne relapsing fever, and tick paralysis. So another fun fact about ticks. So this is the western fence lizard, and it can actually cure ticks of diseases, specifically Lyme disease. So unfortunately, this lizard does not occur in Colorado. We're just outside the range, but this lizard occurs in most of California on the West Coast. And that it is the reason that there is no Lyme disease on the West Coast for the most part. When ticks bite something, the blood of the host begins circulating through the tick. And ticks that are infected with Lyme disease, when they bite these lizards are immune to Lyme disease. Their immune system will actually kill off the bacteria that causes Lyme. So when a Lyme infected tick bites a western fence lizard, the Western fence lizard's blood and immune system will cure that tick of Lyme disease, which is just crazy. The way they find us is through this behavior called questing. Ticks will go to the edge of some kind of plant material, whether it's the blade of grass or a twig, and they'll start waving their hands in the air. And their front legs have specialized sensors for finding CO2 and body heat, the cues that are coming off of their host. And so they're just waving their legs out there trying to find a host. And then once something, brushes by, they latch on, grab on, and then I'll show you what happens in a second. So ticks will often not bite you immediately. They'll kind of like search around for the right spot. And they have like freaky mouth parts. So this like little needle you're seeing here is called the hypostome. I'm going to show you how it works in a second. So trigger warning if you're queasy about watching ticks bite people. So you're going to see it has like little backward facing barbs for helping to kind of really dig in and not get pulled out. So I'm going to play you another video quick. Let's mute that. And you may notice that I love this guy's videos, True Facts. His videos, the narration is sometimes a bit inappropriate, which is why I'm muting them, but the content is top tier. It is scientifically accurate and funny. So this is the tick mouth part. Unlike a mosquito, that kind of like a mosquito has like a needle that's drilling into you, the tick has like two little, I'm gonna let him show you. He's gonna demonstrate it better. So the thing in the middle is the hypostome. You can see the backward facing barbs, and it kind of like pries apart the fibers of the skin as the tick kind of pulls its body into your body to feed on you. So think of it like, it's almost like, a wool sweater, how the fibers are a bit more loose there. For a tick that is so small, it's easy to kind of pull its way through those loose knit fibers, which are your skin. And yeah, so these backward facing barbs really prevent you from being able to pull the tick out of you. It's very difficult to remove a tick. So enough of that. Current slide. Here we go. Another fun fact about ticks is that, everyone has their enemy. There has even been cases of ticks feeding on ticks. And these are like the ones that attack humans. I think this is Ixodes angustus. So that is a tick that bites people occasionally. And then this also happens for mosquitoes. There's even been a case of a blood-sucking midge found to be feeding on the blood collected by a mosquito. So yeah, everybody has their enemy. All right, so that was just some fun facts. Back to the actual important stuff for managing ticks. I just want to keep your attention with some little fun stuff here and there. So to prevent or manage ticks, the first thing you want to do is just avoid tick habitat. Tall grass is notorious for having ticks in there because they're all sitting on the blades of grass doing their questing behavior. I find tons of these at Cherry Creek State Park, actually. Also, try to wear protective clothing. So, you're going to want to wear clothing that has like long sleeves, that's tucked into each other. There is even clothing that you can buy that has been impregnated with DEET. So the clothing itself has a bug repellent built into it. It does lose some of it with each successive washing, but it has been shown to be very effective at repelling blood-sucking insects, mosquitoes, and ticks. Tick repellents, DEET, or any of those off bug sprays, they repel mosquitoes or they confuse mosquitoes and also things like ticks. At any time you leave like an area that that could be tick habitat, do a thorough tick check. And look very closely because ticks, the ones that are most likely to transmit disease are the babies because they're so small that they can avoid detection for longer. And then also proper tick removal is really important to preventing disease transmission, which I'll cover in 2 slides. So first off, protective clothing. You're going to want to wear long sleeves and long pants. You're going to want to tuck your clothes into each other because the tick may land on you, but it's going to crawl around to find your skin eventually. So you want to have like a solid barrier against your skin. And then also try to wear lighter colored clothing because that'll make the ticks more visible. It's easier to see a black tick against a white sock versus a black sock. Also, tick removal is very important. When you remove a tick, don't grab with your fingers. You're more likely to just, drive it further in. You're going to want to grab some tweezers or there are even like, special tick removal things, like little things of plastic with a little hook in them to help, get on the tick and pull it out. You're going to want to make sure that you pull out the mouth parts, that little like saw-like appendage that I showed you earlier, because if the tick's mouth parts become embedded in you and you remove the tick, that can still transmit disease to you. And then you're going to want to disinfect the wound, the bite site after removal. All right, kissing bugs. This is another bug that has been kind of sensationalized by the media. Yes, we have kissing bugs here in Colorado, the western cone nose bug, but they're very rare. They're only found in these 3 counties, and they're really only associated with pack rat nests. Um, they are so sensationalized because they can vector a disease called Chagas. They're called kissing bugs because they prefer to bite you by your lips and your eyes, where the skin is thinner, so the blood vessels are easier to access. Um, the eastern cone-nosed bug, like the East Coast version of this insect, can transmit this disease called Chagas, and that's because when the tick, when not when the tick, when the kissing bug bites you on the East Coast, that one will immediately poop on you, and the bite becomes itchy. So you'll bite, you'll itch, and then you'll wipe the blood, the poop, into your bite, which then gets you sick. So that's how the disease is transmitted. The kissing bug that we have here in Colorado, it defecates off host. So it does not defecate near the bite site. So there's almost no risk of it getting you sick with Chagas. So, this it has been sensationalized by the media. People say, be scared of Chagas and this kissing bug, but it's so rare. And even if where it does occur, it doesn't really transmit the disease. There's lots of lookalikes for codeless bugs. So this is probably where you may come in because, as master gardeners, as horticulture agents, people may come to you, like show you one of these lookalikes and say, oh my God, it's a codeless bug. What do I do? Just put them at ease and say it's actually this other insect. So like the first one is the Western conifer seed bug. It has the same body shape, them both being true bugs, but the Western conifer seed bug has this enlarged tibia. So the cone nose bug does not have that enlarged tibia. Another one is the masked hunter. This is probably the hardest one to tell apart. The masked hunter has a bit of a shorter beak. So here on the right is the masked hunter. On the left is the Western cone-nosed bug. Short beak, long beak. Also the pale green assassin bug. This is a very common insect, and it's actually a really good beneficial insect because it's a predator. It eats tons of other small pest insects in our gardens. The main giveaway is the color. The cone nose bug is like a solid black and gray. These guys are like pale green with some brownish black accents in them. And then also the bee assassin. Of one way that I tell this one apart is bee assassins are always found hanging out in flowers because they're eating bees, and they have like orange and red accents on their abdomen. The cone nose bug does not have, it's more like solid black and gray, like I said earlier. All right, that's all the medical pests. About halfway done with you all. Now for the stored product pests, dermestids, flower beetles, and Indian meal moth. So dermestids, they're also known as skin or hide beetles. There's many different, genera of them. I have all three displayed here. So they're all, they're all like reddish brown, with little spikes coming off their abdomen. Both the larvae and the adults are both injurious. They both attack stored products, and they prefer dry organic matter. So they like to eat dry dead stuff. Like I'll cover which things each attack in a second. So this is what you should look for. Dermestids, often you'll find the exuvia, like the shed skin, before you find the beetles themselves. So here is some of their shed skin along with some of their feces. And this is often found in like dry and disturbed areas, like in the corners of pantries, the corners like of rooms, like near where the carpet meets the baseboard. So the first genera I want to talk about are anthrenous carpet beetles. These guys are more of like nuisance invaders. So the damage they do in homes is usually negligible. When they're outside, they're feeding on nectar and pollen, abandoned wasps or bee nests. If they're in the home, they'll feed on carpet fibers, but again, the damage is like negligible. Vacuuming is usually enough to keep these guys in check. And yeah, they're more of like nuisance invaders where they invade your home in the late fall to avoid the cold of the winter. But warehouse beetles are more of a pest. So these guys prefer to eat dried plant material. So they'll eat dried seeds, nuts, herbs, spices, cacao. And I'll talk about management for these in a second, along with the next beetle, which are larder beetles, Dermestid species. So warehouse beetles, the one I just showed you, prefer dried plant material. These things prefer dried meat-based material. So they'll eat dog and cat food if it's not properly stored, jerky, feathers, fur, wool, cashmere, leather, any animal fibers that their clothing are made from. Even if you don't vacuum enough and you have like an accumulation of pet hairs, they'll feed on that. I hate them especially because they eat insect collections. So when I was a younger, more naive entomologist, I lost a few specimen to these beetles. Um, if you have like dead animals present in the building, like if you have a mouse infestation and the mice are dying in the walls where you can't get rid of them, the domestics may come and start breaking them down. Whenever I'm on walks and I'm looking for bugs, if I find a dead animal, I will poke it with a stick to find some of these beetles and get a picture for our naturalist. And then also taxidermy. So a bit of a fun maybe not a fun story. Um, there are people who taxidermy their dead pets, which I don't understand at all. But I have heard stories of people saying, "Oh, my pet that Seabiscuit, who I taxidermied, or or Old Yeller, started moving, is still alive." What actually happened was the person who did the taxidermy probably just didn't do a good enough job, and so there were still bits of flesh in there, and so the dermestids or other like fly maggots were kind of like in there eating it up. So the lesson to learn here is one, don't taxidermy your dead pets. Properly mourn their death, please. But two, if you're going to do it, have it done right, please. I should have done trigger warning. So I'm going to show you late now, but dead animal with beetles coming out of it. So three, two, one. So dermestids also have a really important role in zoos. Like at the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo, whenever an animal dies, they want to keep the skeleton for educational purposes. They'll put them in a tub full of these beetles, and they'll eat off all the flesh and leave just the bones. They're very surgical because stripping the flesh by hand can often damage some of the delicate structures near like the eyes and the ribs. So yeah, they have one of these colonies at the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo, and top three worst smells I've ever smelled in my whole life. Like this thing smelled like it's death. It smells like death. The top one worst smell, by the way, is dead hornworm pupa that have been like in the soil. Yeah. Anyways, some lookalikes for dermestids, because I do get questions about dermestids on Ask Extension quite a bit. So the Duff millipede, also known as the bristle millipede, looks very similar. Here on the right, this is a Duff millipede, and this is a dermestid larva. So they resemble the dermestids, the larval stage. They're more of like occasional nuisance invaders, and you only really find these guys, the bristle millipedes, Duff millipedes, in pine forests. They're feeding on fungi and decaying plant material. Not really a pest worth freaking out about. So to manage for dermestids, and a lot of this management is going to apply to other stored product pests. Locate and eliminate those breeding sites. So look for those larval skins. Check food that's being stored long term, because often it's the food that we're not checking on frequently that it's being infested. If you find food that is infested, you're going to want to do a freeze or a heat treatment. Heat treatments are more something for a professional to do. Freeze treatments, you can just take your infested food item, put it in the freezer for 3 days, 72 hours. That'll kill off any insects, and then discard it, preferably outside after treating. You're going to want to store your food in high quality, thick plastic. These beetles can chew through the really cheap, like plastic bags that people sometimes store their food in. So high quality, thick plastic will keep the beetles out. A lot of these beetles are coming from outside. So like with any nuisance invader, you're going to want to seal up any entrances into the home, whether that's crevices around the doorways, vents, or windows. And then also vacuuming frequently will help, to prevent that accumulation of lint or pet hair, and it may collect a few of the beetles in the meantime. All right, Indian meal moths. This is probably the most common household moth pest. All life stages live in the home. These things are entirely, domestic. They don't live outside of our homes. They like to attack dried food goods. So kind of like the warehouse beetle, they prefer dried plant material, not like the animal fibers. There is like a cloth moss, cloth moss that do attack animal fibers like cashmere, leather, wool. I'm not going to cover those today, really, but yeah, these guys prefer dried plant material, and they also produce tons of webbing, which I'll show you in just one slide. So here is the larva, the pupa, and the adult. Larva, pupa, and the pupa with like its little silken case. And then here's a penny for scale. So here's the adult moth. They are about a centimeter, maybe a little bit smaller than a centimeter. The moths, you don't really see them unless you have like a super heavy infestation, and you only see them when you're disturbing the area that they're in, when they fly up into the air. So here's some infested food. The caterpillars produce tons of webbing, which protects them from, in the wild, before they became domesticated, not domesticated, but before they started attacking homes, this probably protected them against predators, but now just, makes it look even grosser. And these insects are really only found in like the top 6 to 12 inches of your food. They don't burrow too deep into the infested food material. So to manage them, you're going to want to dispose of infested items. Preferably, you want to freeze or heat treat them first. Freeze is probably the more common and easier route to go. So just put it in your freezer for 3 days and then throw it outside. Moth traps are an indispensable tool in managing these moths. You can find these any big box store, even grocery stores, Home Depot, Lowe's, Ace Hardware, anywhere. And so these traps are like little glue boards that are laced with the pheromone that these moths use to find each other for sex. And so they fly into the trap, they get stuck, and they die. These traps do need to be replaced every week or so because they will like fill up with moths. Keep your kitchen tidy. A tidy kitchen will provide less harbingers, less spaces for these moths to hide out or the caterpillars to hide out and avoid your detection. This principle applies to most any urban pest. Less harbingers in the house to hide means less places where these things can go undetected. And then proper storage, like with the dermestids, high quality plastics. These caterpillars can chew through plastic bags. And there's also tons of different beetles that attack stored products. I'm not going to go through all of them because they all look very similar and they're all managed very much the same way. Properly store your materials. If they are infested, freeze treat them and then throw them away outside. But you may get questions about these on Ask Extension. I've gotten a couple about this one, the spider beetle, just because it looks so weird. But yeah, they're all like reddish brown. They all prefer dried plant material. All right, structural pests. So things that attack our homes, basically. First off, our termites. I want to talk about the most injurious one first, the eastern subterranean termites. So these guys, they don't live in the wood they're attacking. That is drywood termites. Subterranean termites live in the soil. They often prefer wood that is in contact with the soil because it creates less of a commute for them. You probably will never see the termites themselves or the workers, excuse me. You'll probably see either the alates, the winged reproductives, the winged termites, or you'll see their mud tubes. So this is some of the damage that they do. It's not really it's hard to just distinguish them from the damage itself. It could just be the wood is rotting. But a key diagnostic feature of subterranean termites are these things, mud tubes. So these termites are very prone to drying out from desiccation. So they construct little tubes full of, made from mud, saliva, and their feces. Fun. And so they use those tubes like as a highway to commute from the nest to the wood source. If the tube is active and you break it, you'll see like these little like pale white things. Those are the workers, and they will quickly repair that tube to prevent them from desiccation. It also protects them from predators. Like I found sometimes I'll break the tube open, and if I see there's like a predatory bug nearby, it'll like pick off the termites as they're passing by. If you break open the tube and it doesn't get repaired, that means that the mud tube is not active anymore. The nest has been abandoned or they moved on somewhere else. Here's another mud tube. I often see them coming like from the soil along a building to where the wood is. And some of them can even they don't even need like a wall for support. They come like almost out of the ground. It's really rare, but like in crawl spaces, I've seen that happen before. And then I said you'll also probably see the winged reproductives. You may get questions in Ask Extension, people saying, is this a termite? Because the termites, the winged reproductives, can look really similar to the winged reproductives of ants. There are three key differences, though. Ants and the antenna. Ants have elbowed antenna or bent antenna, whereas termites have just straight bead-like antenna. The wings, ants, their reproductives are going to have their forewing is going to be significantly larger than the hind wing, whereas termites, the wings are equal length. And the last thing is the waist. Ants have a wasp waist, like a pinched waist, whereas termites have a more thick, uniform length waist. So to manage termites, first, avoid having any contact with wood with any contact of wood with soil. So try to store your wood, off the ground, maybe like on top of cinder blocks, or preferably somewhere inside. If it's outside, it's going to be more susceptible to termite colonization. Termite stand. This is more of like before a building is even constructed. There's like a special barrier that you can put on the foundation that'll prevent these subterranean termites from getting from the soil to your house. But that's like before the building is even made. It's not an interventive strategy once you already found an infestation. Chemically treated barriers. Again, this is another thing that goes in the building before it's even made. Dispose of waste wood. If you cut down a tree, or if you have like lots of really rotted firewood, get it away from the house. That's going to be a breeding site for these termites. Reduce humidity. Most termites only attack wood that has already started decaying. So just try to prevent the decay from happening in the first place. And then there are insecticides that attack termites that, they attack very insect-specific processes. So they're not as damaging for the environment, such as these things called CSIs, chitin synthesis inhibitors. They just stop termites from being able to make their new exoskeleton. So when they go to molt, they die. And they're really effective. And also, for most time with termites, I would recommend hiring a professional service because it's hard to do all this by yourself. Powderpost beetles also infest wood. Usually it's wood imported from eastern states. They don't really occur here so much. It's more like someone bought the wood, it wasn't properly varnished or painted over there, and they started emerging once they have already made it to Colorado. Um, they only attack unfinished wood, but if the wood has been infested prior to treatment, they can emerge from that wood. Um, they produce these things called kickout holes, little small holes with a pile of sawdust beneath them. So that's a key feature for identifying these beetles. Um, and there's three different types of powder post beetles, but here they are right here. Like, so this is the licted powder post, the bostrichids, and the entomologids. They all look very similar. Identifying each one from each other is not super important because they're all managed very much the same way. So here are those kickout holes. So these little holes, and then they're kicking out the sawdust as they burrow into that wood. Here is a quarter for scale, more kickout holes. And this is the licted powder post beetle, the bostrichid, and the entomologid. Remember, no need to memorize these. I just put these in there because I wanted to flex on you all how much I know. Skip that. Also, barklice can be a bit of a structural pest. So these guys only attack wood that is already significantly decayed from moisture. So they're not really a pest by themselves. They're more of a sign of an underlying problem. They're telling you that the wood is too wet, so you need to correct the moisture. There's no reason to go after the wood lice themselves, because once you correct the moisture issue, they will dry out and die of their own accord. All right, and so I'm running out of time here. So I want to talk about some miscellaneous house pests just to wrap up here. So ants, spiders, centipedes, and cockroaches are often found to be infesting homes, and they're not really attacking anything in your home specifically. They're just kind of like, I'll cover each of them individually. Like, for example, ants. This picture right here, by the way, is a fire ant colony, and they pour molten aluminum down the ant colony to kind of get an idea of the 3D structure after they dig it up. So ants are often beneficial because they're eating other pest insects for us, they're recycling dead stuff, and they're aerating the soil by digging those tunnels that can help, plant roots get air in there. But they sometimes can be pests when they are tending aphids or scales. Sometimes they will farm plant parasitic insects, and they'll protect those plant parasitic insects from our beneficials like ladybugs and parasitic wasps. They will forage in homes for all food scraps, or they'll nest in your home. Ants, they produce alates, wing reproductives. Usually occurs on sunny days when there's low wind speeds and after it's rained. The same principle applies for termites. They're going to produce those winged reproductives when it's recently rained, low wind speed. And ants are kind of cool because they engage in this thing called polygyny. Their nests can have multiple queens. They can have dozens of queens, especially fire ants, which don't occur here. But some of the native ants here, or the ones that not native, they just occur here. They have multiple queens. This is important to know, though, when it comes to chemical management. It's not always the best strategy to just spray ants with some kind of insecticide, because that can cause these colonies to fracture into multiple smaller colonies. So now you have 7 colonies to worry about instead of 1. So whenever you want, managing ants, the best way is often to use like an insecticide-laced bait, because that will prevent this kind of fracturing phenomenon, and it'll still kill the colony. So carpenter ants are one of the main pest ants here. These are very large ants, typically about like a centimeter and a half. I'm always looking at my fingers because I have my hands. I have a little tattoo of a ruler on my forearm to help me remember lengths and stuff. But yeah, so carpenter ants are usually about a centimeter or larger. They usually attack like wood that is already rotting, but they often aren't the cause of the wood's decline. Like if your tree has carpenter ants, the carpenter ants aren't the problem. The problem is like some sort of underlying stress that is making the tree vulnerable to the ants. So try to address that underlying issue rather than trying to just kill the ants themselves. If you can address the underlying issue, that'll get rid of the ants too. Another common species is the immigrant pavement ant. It's the most common one here. These are very small ants, like maybe like a half a centimeter. They nest in and around pavement and rocks, and they have seasonal dietary preferences. I think in the early spring they prefer more of like sugary things, and in the later season they prefer things that are higher in protein. And then also odorous house ants. They don't nest indoors, but they're usually found indoors in houseplants like scale especially. They have an interesting defensive behavior. Like when you harass them, their alarm pheromone smells kind of like coconut, which I think is cool. Like for example, also citronella ants. There's a certain type of ant that when you harass them, they smell like citronella. And these guys are often associated with excess mulch. So excess mulch. So if you have them, try to reduce how much mulch you have. Maybe just like if it's piled up too high, too close to the house, pull it a bit away from the house. And then also the pharaoh ant. I'm gonna kind of just brush over these because they're not as common as the other three that I just discussed. So to manage ants, try to reduce their food sources. Obviously, don't have any like crumbs or food scraps lying around, but even dripping or leaky faucets can attract these ants because it's a good steady water source for them. So try to fix any leaky faucets. Seal entrances to the home. This will prevent any kind of nuisance invader, kind of like keeping out the dermestids, keeping out anything that's trying to get into your home to avoid the cold of the winter. Reduce the mulch near the foundation of the home, so just kind of pull maybe a couple inches to a foot back. And then insecticides. So there are insecticides you can apply as like a perimeter treatment. You just apply it to the perimeter of the home as like a moat to keep the ants from getting into the home. Spot treatments are an option. Like I said, those can cause the colony to fracture into multiple smaller colonies. The best way to manage ants is with insecticide-laced baits. So boric acid, which is found in the most common one on the market is called Terra Liquid Ant Killer. It's pretty effective. It contains boric acid. They consume some of it, go back to their nest, share it with everyone, the queen, the babies, everyone, and then it poisons the whole colony. It doesn't work as fast, but it is a much more long-term and effective, it's a much more permanent solution to the problem. Insecticide, I just covered some of these. So diatomaceous earth is one that, it helps desiccate these insects and cause them to dry out and die. Boric acid, and then again, the insect growth regulators. So insect growth regulators, or I'm going to abbreviate them to IGRs, they don't kill insects outright. They act on some insect-specific process and then kill them as they are moving from one life stage to another. So, like a lot of the chitin synthesis inhibitors, the ones same ones we use for termites, can also be used for ants. The ants consume some of it, and then once they go to molt, they just get stuck in their old molt and they die. I'm going to kind of gloss over some of the spiders that you may encounter. We've got funnel weavers. They make these little like funnel-like webs. None of these spiders that I'm showing you are really like of concern, really. If you have them in your home, it's because there's other insects. So try to get rid of the other insects before reaching for a spray bottle to kill the spiders who are just there, helping you with your pest problem. So funnel weavers, jumping spiders are great to have in the garden. They're great predators of a lot of general garden pests. Woodlouse hunters, you often find them in decaying wood where there's lots of woodlice to eat. Here it has like a woodlouse in its sights. It's probably going to eat in a second. And all the spiders I'm showing you, like I said, they're not really dangerous to humans. So the media is sensationalizing. Oh, woodlouse spiders are deadly. They have those big jaws. They don't attack people at all. It's just for attacking woodlice. Yeah, I just saw this thing online that I thought was funny. This article was clearly written by a woodlouse who's trying to smear woodlouse hunters. Ground spiders, again, just generalist predators. They're eating beneficials. They just happen to be found in homes sometimes. The eastern parchment spider, also a very common house spider. The yellow sac spider, over at the Denver County Extension Office, we have like hundreds of these. I find them all the time. Cellar spiders, probably you may have heard of them, called daddy longlegs. Again, really, really harmless, often found in really dry, undisturbed areas. Wolf spiders, you probably know these already. Orb weavers, very common spiders, usually found outside though. They make those big, ornate, circular webs. And then some spiders that don't occur here that I just think are cool. Spitting spiders actually like spit silk at their prey. They have their silk glands like by their face, basically. The bolus spider, it's not here also, but it makes a little ball of silk and it kind of like waves it in the air like that, and it catches moths like a lasso almost. And then the net casting spider, this thing also in South America, but it like knits like a little thing, like a net of silk through its hands and then kind of catches prey like that. Does this thing. So you can look up videos later if you like. Whoops. Something is wrong with my, hold on 1 second. That's weird. Thank you all for your patience. I'm going to wrap up here pretty soon because I know that I'm at time and I want to take some of your questions. I'm going to stop sharing because I'm having some technical difficulties. Or maybe should I wrap up here because we take questions in a second? What do you think, Allison?
We do have some questions, and we could see your PowerPoint when it was not in the presentation mode. So if it was just in the slide builder, but now actually I'm not seeing anything. So I'll ask you a question while you continue to fiddle if you're able to do two things at once.
Yeah, I can go ahead.
Okay, so Bev asked, and this is something I've heard too, with female mosquitoes, do they only take a blood meal when they're pregnant or laying eggs?
So they take a blood meal and yes, they take a blood meal once they're already fertilized, and then they use that blood meal to make eggs, and they have to take another blood meal to make more eggs. Like it's one blood meal per batch of eggs. But yes, they're already pregnant.
Okay, so otherwise, are they pollinators when they're not pregnant?
Yeah,
Okay,
mosquitoes. Unfortunately, they are pollinators. Like actually, chocolate, cacao, can only be pollinated by a certain type of biting fly in South America.
well, that's fascinating. Okay, a couple questions on termites. One, can wood mulch attract termites? And then how common do we see termites in Colorado?
So mulch is not really like a source of food for termites. Maybe if it's the really large particle mulch, like the bark mulch. But yeah, for the most part, mulch is not like a termite source of food. And termites, I don't see them super often here in Colorado. It's kind of too dry for the subterranean termite. I occasionally, like maybe like once, a couple times a year, I get reports of the drywood termite. But yeah, not really common. And when you find them, call a professional company to do an inspection because you know they can be really hard to detect sometimes.
Amazing. Um, we have one on grasshoppers, but we'll wait for that one. So, can thrips swarm and bite people?
So thrips, it's not that they're biting you. Sometimes they will like land on your skin, and some people have like an allergic reaction to like the saliva of the thrips. So they're not really biting you. It's just like the fact that they're on you. And the same thing happens more commonly with lace bugs, which are also another plant parasitic insect. Yeah, so wear long sleeves when you're working in your garden where you know them to be there. And my slides are working again too, but we can keep doing questions if you like.
Yeah, we have a few if you don't mind. Grasshoppers, what do you do, Kareem? Grasshoppers.
Yeah, just pray. So grasshoppers, there are some prescribed management protocols, but like for the people that I've told to do these things, I've heard that they just still have grasshoppers, but I'll just tell you anyways. So trap cropping, grasshoppers prefer certain plants like zinnias, lettuce, cereal crops, anything that's kind of like green and fleshy. And so you plant those plants in your garden, and the grasshoppers will hopefully consolidate themselves to those plants, and you can just treat that one plant, just bag the grasshoppers that are there. um, for trap crops, you want to plant the trap crop between your plant of interest and the direction that the grasshoppers are coming from. So if there's a prairie nearby, plant it between the prairie and your garden. And then also don't let your trap crop dry out or don't mow it. That'll cause an exodus of grasshoppers onto your plants. um, Besides those two strategies, try to remove any kind of weeds from the vicinity of your planting because that'll be a habitat for the grasshoppers. Um, and then there are some like insecticide laced baits, like brand baits or Nolo bait, but I've heard mixed things about how effective they are.
Kind of like prey. I think that's a good one.
It's gonna be a bad.
Um, any options to manage the immigrant pavement ant?
Yes. So my personal I've had really good success with Taro liquid ant killer. So any chemical containing boric acid, that's just the only one that I can find in grocery stores here. So yeah, I would say that boric acid, Taro liquid ant killer.
Perfect. And then there is a question about spiders, and you mentioned your slides are working again. So do you want to
Yeah,
cover black widows and brown recluse?
I am. I'm gonna cover them right now. So let's see. Hopefully you all can see it this time from current slide. Can you see that?
Yes, we sure can.
Excellent. Okay. I'm gonna try to wrap this up pretty fast. So black widows are overstigmatized. They have to be provoked into biting. You have to like basically squeeze it in your finger or accidentally sit or step on it. Um, no one has died of a bite in almost 40 years. No one who has like had no pre-existing condition. So it's another pest that is sensationalized by the media. Not even a pest, honestly. They like to nest in dry, undisturbed areas like all of those listed here. So if you have black widows, just try to reduce this kind of habitat. So they get the name Black Widow because the males occasionally get eaten, but trust me, he deserves it. So first off, there's over 32 species of Black Widow. Only two habitually eat the male, but the ones that do, like I said, he had it coming. When a male finds a female's web, he immediately starts destroying it. He snips the strands because her web broadcasts her scent to other males, and he wants to be the only one for her. So he destroys her web. He's a literal homewrecker. He will begin stealing her food. Um, bum living in her house. And he will fight off other males because he wants to, again, be the only one for her. And when it comes time for mating, he is very much a willing participant. You know, he kind of like will pass her some sperm and then kind of like somersault into her mouth. She'll kind of like nibble on him a little bit, and then go back to mating, back to nibbling, back and forth until he is basically like a soup that she drinks. To manage black widows, so there's plenty of natural enemies of black widows: mud daubers, parasitic wasps, parasitic flies, and small rodents will all eat black widows. Like I mentioned earlier, eliminate those potential nest sites, those dry, undisturbed areas, overturn garden pots, cinder blocks. And then for areas that you cannot, eliminate the habitat, like crawl spaces and window wells, increasing the lighting and the foot traffic in those areas will discourage black widows from nesting there. If you see them, just physically crush them or vacuum them up. Increase the lighting, increase the foot traffic will discourage them. And then there are some insecticide treatments, perimeter treatments, spot treatments. But again, I often see, pest control companies will say you have black widows, I can come and spray your whole house for you. Not necessary at all. They just want to make money off of you. These black widows can be managed entirely, through by yourself, like DIY spot treatments, and getting rid of the habitat. You don't need to broadcast insecticides over your entire property where you're going to be exposed to them too. Brown recluses, extremely rare in Colorado. You really only find them in like the southern regions that are closer to like Arizona. These insects, to ID them, they have like a little lyre, like a little violin or like a guitar shape on their head, which you're seeing here, the violin shape. And they're often mistaken for a lot of our native funnel weavers and wolf spiders. So that's what may be getting questions about. Someone will say, this is the brown recluse. Look for the lyre shape on the head, but more than likely, it's not a brown recluse. They are so scary though because they have necrotic venom. So if they do bite you, it causes like a huge wound to form where the venom is kind of like eating away at the flesh, which can be very bad. But like I said, extremely rare here in Colorado. It's just way too hot and dry for them. So here's a map of some of the range distributions of brown recluses. So as you can see, we're right here in Colorado. We're almost entirely outside of the range of any brown recluses. Whenever brown recluses are found in Colorado, what happened is someone was in like Arizona or another state, and the brown recluse hitchhiked on them to Colorado. So this is another picture of brown recluse. You can see this lyre shape very clearly, and they can vary in size. So here's a brown recluse next to a quarter. They can look kind of like cellar spiders to the untrained eye, or like a grass spider, a funnel weaver, or a wolf spider. But again, look for that lyre shape. It's the most diagnostic feature. I'm at 1 o'clock now. Allison, can I keep going, or should I just stop and take questions and wrap up? What do you think?
You know what? You might as well keep going and we'll keep recording. For those of you who need to leave at 1, just catch the last part when you're able. Thanks.
Cool. I'm almost done. So centipedes, the house centipede is the one you're most likely to encounter. They like moist, dark environments. So you find them in like your boiler rooms, sometimes in bat basements where it's kind of, dark and moist, water heaters, bathtubs, sinks. They're pretty harmless. They only bite you if you harass them. I've even picked them up before. I know it's gross, but like they don't bite me when I pick them up. It's only if you kind of like are squeezing them. The bites produce some mild inflammation. It's about as bad as a bee sting. The cool thing about centipedes in general is that their pincers are actually modified legs. So if you look right here by its head, these little pincers, they evolved from some of their legs. Some centipedes even retain the ability to sting through any of their legs, some of the tropical species. Centipedes can look very similar to millipedes, but I often distinguish them. The easiest way is like, millipedes are often like more like cylindrical, and they usually, like, if you harass them, they kind of like ball up into a little spiral, whereas centipedes will just run away. Also, centipedes have 1 pair of legs per body segment. Millipedes have 2 pairs of legs per body segment. Millipedes are eating just like leaf litter and decaying plants. Centipedes are predators. They're eating small other insects. All right, that's centipedes. Now for cockroaches, everyone's favorite insect. So there's 4 species that occur here in Colorado. I have the egg cases of them all right next to us on the left. Cockroaches are really a problem as mechanical vectors. They can walk across like some poop or some dead animal or some rotted food, and then walk across your kitchen counter and then vector bacteria that way. They can also cause problems when you have a heavy infestation for the exuvia, their shed skin. If they have a lot of dead cockroaches in your air system, your ventilation, the exuvia can become aerosolized, and if it becomes inhaled, it can give you a bit of like asthmatic problems. It can irritate your airways. Um, they're primarily nocturnal, so if you're seeing them during the day, that means you have a very heavy infestation. And they are communal, so they're not social. They don't have a cocoon or anything, but they do hang out all together in the same area, which does help us with management, which I'll talk about in a second. So a fun fact about roaches is that um, this is their egg case, and they can make the egg case. They don't have to lay it immediately. The female can kind of like hold on to it until she finds the right spot for it. I have a pet tarantula right there, and I feed her roaches. And sometimes the roaches, when they're getting eaten, they'll drop the egg case as they are getting eaten. They're kind of like, okay, I'm done. Hopefully my kids can survive. I save the roaches to feed to her later too, so they don't actually survive. So the relevant species that we have here are the American cockroach, which, fun fact, the American roach is actually not from America. It was brought to the US during the slave trade from Africa, this really big one. We also have the Oriental roach, the brown banded roach, and the German cockroach. Another fun fact, the German cockroach is not German. It was named after an Austrian guy who hated Germans. Um, and then the wood roach is not really a pest. They really only occur in like rotting wood outside, but people do see them and they get scared. They think roach, oh my gosh. Another fun fact, roaches get attacked by this wasp called the emerald cockroach wasp, which zombifies them. It stings the roach in a very specific part of its head near the brainstem, turns the roach into a zombie, so the roach can still move, but not of its own volition. Then the wasp will bite off the antenna, drink some of the blood from there, and then use the antenna kind of like a leash and pull the roach to where it's going to bury it and lay an egg in it. These wasps, unfortunately, do not occur in Colorado. It's another one of those tropical species, but they are very cool to watch at work. The roach is not totally defenseless, though. I want to show you what happens if the roach detects the wasp. It'll kick the life out of this wasp. So you're going to see a little tussle here as the wasp is trying to bite on so that it can sting the roach. It's like a rodeo, kind of like bucks, like a bull. And I want to show you all just the blow that it delivers to the roach can be fatal sometimes. Let's see right here. Here we go. So it's in slow motion, so it's much more dramatic. So you're going to see the roach raise its eggs in the air, quick, and then bam. Yeah, they can send those wasps flying. It's really fun to watch. Okay, and we're almost done here. Let's see. We have about 10 more slides left from current slide. So to manage cockroaches, preventing them from entering your home in the first place. So, weather stripping or just sealing those potential entry points around windows, doors, and vents. Eliminate harbingers. So keeping things very tidy will create less habitat for roaches to hang out in. Reduce those food sources. Don't leave food out overnight. If you're going to leave it, leave it well covered with a high quality material, high quality plastic. Sticky traps or glue boards will help catch and kill a lot of these roaches. And then insecticides. So, there are a lot of insecticide-laced baits. Like a lot of them are laced with neonicotinoids, like imidacloprid, like a little, white paste you put out. The roaches consume some of it, and then they hang out with their friends, and they die amongst their friends, and their friends all come and eat them, and they all consume the insecticide too, and they all get sick and die too. The same mechanism applies for the IGRs, for some of these insect growth regulators. And then there are also like insecticidal dust, like diatomaceous earth, which you can apply as like a little barrier that they have to walk across and then get some of the crystals in them and then eventually die of desiccation. So the last part of this, I'm going to talk about nuisance invaders. So insects that they originate outdoors and they're just invading our homes to seek out somewhere, somewhere like cool or warm. Cool when it's in the summer, warm when it's in the winter. They don't feed on anything in the home. They don't do any damage to the home. They're just annoying by their mere presence. They don't reproduce in the house. They don't feed on house plants. They don't attack us or our pets. The fact that they're just annoying just from them being there. So the species of nuisance invaders that you'll see are going to differ with the season. I often call them windowsill bugs because you often find them like dried up and dead in your windowsills. So in the spring, you're having a lot of bugs that are ending their dormancy, that are coming into your home, or sorry, they're maybe they were in your home all winter and they're coming out finally after waking up from hibernation. In the spring, we're also dealing with the miller moth migration, which is a whole another subject. Millipedes are also doing a little bit of a migration, and also ants are foraging in the home in the early spring. So miller moths, also known as the army cutworm, they're called that because when the caterpillars, there's like a really high population level and there's no food, they start marching in a line like an army. They have this distinct kidney shape on their wings. It's how you ID them from other various, a lot of other lookalike moths. They like to migrate to higher elevations as temperature increases. So most of them, they're for the most part, they've already migrated to the mountains where their preferred forage is already in bloom. But they're hanging out here in the early spring when that forage, those higher elevation plants haven't bloomed yet. And they can attract dermestids and rodents. If a lot of them are dying inside your building, mice and dermestids will start feeding on the corpses. All right, millipedes, they're usually most prevalent following rain, and they often get into the home and then dry out and die shortly after entering. So they're just annoying, just finding their dead bodies everywhere. Especially if you have like a wet shoe sitting outside, they'll all crawl in there because they love the moisture. So for the summer, a lot of the nuisance invaders that we have are ones that are trying to escape the summer heat. This is going to be your Duff millipedes, false chinch bugs, and root weevils. So Duff millipedes I covered earlier, they are often mistaken for dermestids. They're most common in pine forests, and like I said, any of these pests, they're not attacking anything in the home. They're just annoying because they're around there. False chinch bugs, I say and friends because there's lots of other insects that look very similar to false chinch bugs, but they have the same habits of invading homes. False chinch bugs can be a bit of a plant pest. I see them attacking like kale and some other leafy greens, but they're most commonly annoying just because they're getting into homes in the winter. And then root weevils, another plant pest that also invades homes, and sorry, not in the winter, in the summer to avoid that summer heat. And in the late winter fall, we have lots of insects that are looking for a warm site to spend the winter, and they're invading through those entry points, windows, vents, doorways. The most common are these ones that I have listed here: Boxelder bugs, western conifer seed bugs, Asian ladybird beetles, cluster flies, and lacewings. And we're in the home stretch here. I think I only have maybe 4 more minutes. So box elder bugs are often associated with box elder trees. If you have a really bad problem with them, the main way is to just get rid of that box elder tree. They often will congregate on brick or stone walls. They like the radiant heat that comes off those brick walls. The western conifer seed bug is a common nuisance invader. It's a pretty large insect. It looks very similar to the western cone nose bug, which we covered earlier. When you harass these bugs, as I often do, they'll produce like a really strong terpene. It smells almost like pine sol when you harass them. Yeah, and they're mistaken for the cone nose bug. Cluster flies, another common nuisance invader. They are parasitoids of earthworms, so they're soil dwelling, but they can be pollinators, so they are beneficial to have. Another way to manage these guys specifically is to reduce your indoor lighting. Having lots of lights is going to attract more bugs to your house. Asian ladybird beetles. It's actually, these are the most common ladybug around here, but they're not native. They're actually invasive and they're bad for our native ladybugs. And they love to invade our homes. And they also have several different morphs. All of these pictures are all of the same species of the Asian ladybird. So even if it looks different, go off with the structure, like the pattern of the ink blot on the thorax. That's often how I distinguish Asian ladybird beetles from other ladybugs. Lacewings are another common nuisance invader, just the adults though. So these insects undergo complete metamorphosis where they have a larval stage. The larva is the beneficial one. It's a predator eating, it's a generalist, eating whatever small bugs you can find in your garden. You can buy them online commercially as the eggs, but the adults will often just fly into your house and end up dry and dead in your windowsill. And to manage for nuisance invaders, like I said earlier, try to physically exclude them from getting into the house in the first place. Seal those entry points with caulk. Try to minimize the time that doors and windows are open so the bugs can fly in, and reduce the outdoor lighting too. Indoor lighting especially, but outdoor lighting is going to bring more bugs, to the vicinity of these entry points. You can use sticky traps or glue boards to help catch and kill these bugs. Place these near those entry points, near the windows, vents, and doorways. You can do perimeter insecticide treatments. Only if the problem is really bad do you need to use perimeter insecticide treatment. And that needs to be done by a professional pest control, a professional pest control company, not just a DIY with a spray bottle going around the perimeter of your property. All right, and that's all I have for you all. I actually finished a little earlier than I thought, so I can take any more questions now for anyone who is still sticking around.
Don't currently have any more in the Q&A. I've given a couple people your email address, so hopefully that's all right.
Yeah,
With that, I think we're finished. Cassie, thank you. Any questions you have? Anything we need to finalize? Otherwise, join us August 14th for our next presentation, which is fire resilient landscaping. This has been recorded, the entire thing, so you can check that out on planttalk.org/webinars. And maybe one last question because it's unusual. Why would a hornworm be in the stucco of a house?
So you probably have found like the final instar that hornworm has eaten its fill and now it's looking for a site to pupate, and it mistakenly picked the stucco of your house. Sometimes it's just like a freak of like, it shouldn't happen, but it just happens by accident sometimes because humans mess with nature. But yeah, it's trying to pupate.
So people had some ew moments, but we thank you, Karim. Thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you at a future webinar. Have a great day, everybody.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.